High-end residential neighborhoods are often associated with safety places where people can enjoy life without constantly looking over their shoulders. But even in the most secure communities, tragedy can still strike. In 2015, in one of these upscale neighborhoods, home to many successful individuals, a young dentist who had just found love was met with unspeakable tragedy. At first, it seemed like a random act of violence. But as the police began their investigation, they quickly realized the case was far more complicated than it first appeared. The story unfolds in Dallas, the 9th largest city in the United States, located in northeastern Texas. With its well-developed transportation network, Dallas has become a major hub for finance, healthcare, and education in the southern U.S. One of its most vibrant areas is Uptown, known for its upscale restaurants, shopping centers, office towers, and luxury apartment buildings. With over 68% of its residents holding a college degree or higher, Uptown is home to a highly educated and professional population. Yet, it was here right in the heart of this seemingly safe and sophisticated district that a horrifying murder took place. The central figure of this story is Kendra Hatcher, a 35-year-old dentist known for her vibrant energy and zest for life. She lived in a luxury apartment in Uptown, enjoying the modern lifestyle she had worked so hard to build. Born in 1980 in Springfield, Illinois, Kendra grew up in a modest family but always stood out for her intelligence and outgoing nature. She wasn't just a top student, she also led both the cheerleading and volleyball teams at her high school. To her friends and teachers, she was a true star. After graduating from DePauw University, Kendra pursued her passion for dentistry and
earned her Doctor of Dental Surgery degree from the University of Kentucky. Following her internship and becoming a licensed dentist, she dedicated herself fully to her profession. She was also deeply committed to charity work, once traveling
to Ecuador to provide free dental care to underprivileged children. Beyond her professional life, Kendra was a passionate animal lover. She had a kind heart and would never harm any living creature, not even a tiny ant. Whenever she saw stray cats or dogs on the street, she'd often stop to pet them or give them food. Her warm, friendly personality made her beloved among her peers, and her presence always seemed to bring joy and light wherever she went. But no matter how kind or compassionate a person may be, life's storms can still find their way to them. Even with a kind and gentle heart, Kendra wasn't immune to the ups and downs of life. She had gone through a painful divorce that left her in a period of sadness and soul-searching. Hoping for a fresh start, she moved to Dallas in 2010, rented a luxury apartment, and began building her life anew. There, she quickly landed a job in dentistry, something she was truly passionate about. After years of dedication and hard work, Kendra had finally found stability. She had a fulfilling career, a solid group of friends, weekends spent shopping, nights out at trendy bars, yoga classes, and fitness sessions. Her life was full except for one thing. She was still searching for a partner to share it with. In May 2015, on a quiet day, Kendra opened a dating app, just browsing to pass the time. That's when she came across a profile that caught her eye, a young man with a vibrant look and a confident smile. What drew her in even more was his bio. "I've fulfilled my childhood dream of becoming a doctor. Now I live in a great city, and I'm truly happy." His name was Ricardo Paniagua, but he simply went by Rick. Born in 1977 in California, Rick came from a poor background, but had risen above it all, eventually becoming a successful dermatologist after graduating from Stanford Medical School. With his sharp looks and polished demeanor, Rick made a strong first impression on just about everyone he met. He had moved to Dallas in 2011, following the end of a nearly 3-year relationship. Perhaps it was the shared background in medicine, or perhaps it was simply fate, but Kendra quickly felt a connection with Rick. After only a few days of chatting, they decided to meet on May 24th. Their first conversation flowed effortlessly, as if they'd known each other forever. Within just 2 weeks, Kendra made their relationship public on Instagram, posting sweet and romantic photos of the two. By August, they were vacationing together and even talking seriously about buying a house and getting married. On September 3rd, 2015, they were scheduled to fly to Cancun for a getaway, and afterward, visit Kendra's parents in Illinois to discuss wedding plans. She was beaming with happiness, so much so that even during yoga class, she couldn't help but smile. but everything ended in tragedy. On the evening of September 2nd, 2015, around 7 p.m., Kendra left work and drove home. She was excited, her mind filled with thoughts of white sands and future dreams. As she pulled into the parking garage beneath her building, she had no idea someone was waiting in the shadows. Just as she stepped out of her car, a dark figure emerged behind her. A single gunshot rang out. Kendra collapsed, lifeless, into a pool of blood. A neighbor heard the shot and immediately called 911. When police arrived, Kendra was already gunshot in the back of the head. With no eyewitnesses and no immediate suspects, the investigation proved to be challenging. The sudden, brutal nature of the crime sent shockwaves through the entire apartment complex and all of uptown Dallas. This was supposed to be one of the safest areas in the city, a place where many single women chose to live for peace of mind. But now, after a cold-blooded murder in the parking garage, fear had taken hold. Police immediately launched an investigation, and the first person they turned to was Rick, Kendra's boyfriend. In homicide cases, the romantic partner is often the first suspect. But Rick and Kendra had been happy together, planning a future and a wedding. More importantly, Rick had a solid alibi. When he learned that Kendra had been murdered, Rick was devastated. He insisted that she was a kind, gentle person who didn't have enemies. Her friends echoed the same sentiment. Everyone who knew Kendra loved her. If it wasn't a crime driven by hatred, could it have been a robbery gone wrong? At the scene, police noted that Kendra's purse, camera, and several other belongings were missing. Then came a crucial discovery. Security cameras in the parking garage captured footage of a black Jeep arriving just before Kendra pulled in. Moments after she parked, a man stepped out of the Jeep and followed her. About 40 seconds later, he returned to the vehicle, got into the back seat, and the Jeep quickly drove off. Although the camera didn't capture the exact moment of the shooting, the timing and the man's movements led police to believe this wasn't a random act of violence, it was a planned assassination. The Jeep Grand Cherokee seen in the footage had two occupants, one behind the wheel, the other carrying out the attack. Due to the poor video quality, the police couldn't get a clear view of the driver's face or the license plate. However, they could tell the driver was a woman and that the vehicle was definitely a Jeep Grand Cherokee. Hoping for a lead, the police released the video to the public, asking anyone who recognized the car to come forward. It didn't take long. A man named Jose, who owned a local auto repair shop, contacted the police. He was certain the Jeep in the video belonged to him, easy to identify thanks to its custom rims. And more importantly, on September 2nd, he had lent the car to someone. That person was Brenda Delgado, Rick's ex-girlfriend. Her full name was Brenda Delgado. She was born in 1982 into a poor family in Mexico. Her parents had 5 children in total, and Brenda was the second child and the only daughter. Hoping for a better life, her family eventually immigrated to Dallas, Texas. Though they could only afford to live in Pleasant Grove, a low-income area in southeastern Dallas, to them, the city still held promise. Dallas was their land of opportunity, the place where they pinned their hopes for a brighter future. Brenda's parents didn't have much of an education. Her father worked in construction, while her mother cleaned offices at a post office. Life was a constant struggle. Seeing their hardships, Brenda grew up with a burning desire to escape poverty and build a better life not just for herself, but for her entire family. Despite being a good student, she couldn't afford college. Instead, she took a job as a dental assistant, eventually moving on to work at a teeth whitening spa. Her income was modest, but Brenda still liked to spend time at upscale bars and shopping centers in uptown Dallas, trying to fit into the world she dreamed of belonging to. In August 2012, Brenda met Rick through a dating app. At the time, Rick was already a successful dermatologist and an assistant professor at the University of Texas Southwestern Medical Center. After a few dates, he became captivated by Brenda's confidence and ambition. They soon made their relationship official. Just 3 months later, Brenda moved in with Rick. She saw him as the perfect man, the one who could give her the dream life she had always imagined. But that dream didn't last. For nearly 2 years, their relationship seemed stable. In 2013, Brenda became pregnant with Rick's child. After much discussion, the two agreed not to keep the baby. The decision devastated Brenda. By July 2014, cracks began to show. Rick asked for a breakup, though the exact reason wasn't clear. Brenda was crushed. She tried desperately to win him back, hoping to salvage the relationship. And for a while, it worked. They reconciled. But in February 2015, they broke up again. This time, it was final, both of them knew it. Still, they stayed in touch, occasionally texting. According to Rick, their relationship had evolved into a simple friendship, without bitterness or resentment. Then, in May 2015, Rick met Kendra and began a new romance. As we know, just 3 months later, Kendra was shot dead. Was Brenda driven by jealousy toward the woman who had taken Rick from her? Had she killed Kendra out of revenge? Police didn't waste any time. They brought Brenda in for questioning. When questioned by the police, Brenda remained remarkably calm. She was fully cooperative, spoke clearly, and showed no signs of anxiety or fear. In fact, she even tried to build a friendly rapport with the investigators. Typically, even innocent people feel some level of nervousness when brought into a police station, but Brenda's demeanor was different. That unsettling composure only made her seem more suspicious. However, during the interrogation, police discovered that Brenda had a seemingly solid alibi. On September the 2nd, from noon until 6 p.m., she was studying at a library with some friends. Later that evening, she had dinner at a restaurant with a receipt timestamped at 8:57 p.m., almost exactly when the murder occurred. But one fact remained undeniable. Brenda had borrowed the black Jeep from Jose. When asked about this, Brenda claimed that she had loaned the vehicle to a friend named Christopher. As for what Christopher did with the car, Brenda said she had no idea. Police immediately brought Christopher in for questioning. Like Brenda, she was smooth-talking and seemed oddly relaxed in the interview room. She told investigators that, on that day, a masked man had held a gun to her back and forced her to drive. She claimed not to know anything about the shooting, insisting that the attacker was fully masked and she couldn't identify him. But Christopher's story quickly fell apart. In the security footage, after the man exited the Jeep, Christopher remained seated calmly in the driver's seat, waiting without any sign of distress. If she had truly been threatened at gunpoint, she would have shown panic or tried to flee. She didn't. Realizing she'd been caught in a lie, Christopher changed her story. This time, she said she had simply driven to the parking garage to meet a friend. The man was just catching a ride, and she had no knowledge of what he was doing there. But when pressed to identify this so-called friend or the man in question, she couldn't give a name, couldn't offer a single detail. Finally, Christopher revised her statement once more. This time, she confessed that Brenda had paid her $500 to drive to the parking garage. According to her, the plan was to rob Kendra, take her wallet and ID. She claimed she was unemployed at the time and needed the money, so she agreed to help. Since Christopher was the one driving the Jeep directly involved in the crime, police decided to detain her pending further investigation. But what about Brenda? The police grew increasingly convinced that Brenda was deeply involved in the crime, so they decided to ramp up their interrogation tactics. During the next round of questioning, they deliberately provoked her with sharp personal remarks like, "You were jealous of Kendra, weren't you? She was prettier. Then you had a better life, and she took Rick away from you." But Brenda's unsettling composure didn't crack. She calmly insisted that her breakup with Rick had been peaceful and that she had no reason to harm Kendra. When the detectives began pressing harder, Brenda cut them off coldly. "I don't want to answer any more questions," she said. "If you keep pushing, I'll call my lawyer." Although the detectives strongly suspected her involvement, they didn't yet have enough evidence to press charges. Reluctantly, they released her, but placed her under restriction, not allowed to leave Dallas. However, almost immediately after walking out of the police station, Brenda fled the country and vanished into Mexico. With Brenda gone, the police shifted their focus to tracking down the shooter. Using phone records and Christopher's testimony, they identified the suspect, Robert Love. Love, 31, had a long rap sheet, everything from theft and assault to illegal weapons possession. At the time, he was homeless, drifting from place to place, earning money by selling marijuana. When detectives reviewed his criminal history, They knew they were on the right track. During his interrogation, Love denied everything. He claimed he didn't know Christopher or Brenda and insisted he had an alibi. But no matter what he said, he couldn't talk his way out of the mounting evidence. When police searched his vehicle, they found a .40 caliber Smith & Wesson pistol hidden beneath the center console. Ballistic testing later confirmed it was the murder weapon used to kill Kendra. On top of that, call records showed that from August 1st to September 3rd, there had been 226 calls exchanged between Brenda, Christopher, and Love. On the day of the murder, the locations of their cell phones all matched the crime scene. These findings made it clear Brenda wasn't just connected to the case, she was a central figure in a premeditated plot. But even with all this evidence, the fact remained she had an airtight alibi and no direct eyewitness placed her at the scene. That meant the police still couldn't arrest her. Not yet. Faced with the situation, the prosecutor decided to strike a deal with Christopher. If she confessed to everything and agreed to testify, she would receive a 35-year prison sentence instead of the death penalty. Knowing there was no way out, Christopher immediately pleaded guilty and told the whole story. She revealed that Brenda was the mastermind behind it all. At the time, I was broke. My son was only 6 years old, and my mother was seriously ill. Brenda approached me and said she wanted to get rid of Kendra. She offered me $500. I agreed because I needed the money. Then I brought Love into it. Brenda promised him cash and weed. On September 2nd, we followed Kendra. I drove, and Love was the one who pulled the trigger. After it was done, Brenda paid me $500. I still have a photo of the money on my phone. With this testimony, everything became clear. Brenda was the true mastermind. When Rick heard the news, he couldn't believe it. To him, Brenda had always seemed kind and gentle. Even after they broke up, they stayed in touch. And after Kendra's death, Brenda had appeared caring, even comforting Rick through his grief. Brenda's family was equally stunned. Her mother insisted the police had the wrong person. She described her daughter as a kind woman and a devout Catholic. She simply couldn't accept that Brenda could commit such a cruel act. But the truth was undeniable. Police issued a warrant for Brenda's arrest, but she had already fled to Mexico. Because U.S. warrants aren't valid there, American authorities faced major obstacles in bringing her to justice. In 2016, the FBI added Brenda to the 10 most wanted fugitives list and offered a $100,000 reward for information leading to her capture. They also warned that she was dangerous and capable of manipulating those around her. However, once someone makes it onto that list, escape becomes nearly impossible. And as expected, Brenda couldn't hide for long. With the help of Mexican authorities, she was tracked down in the city of Torreon. By April 2016, realizing her options had run out, Brenda turned herself in. But then, another complication arose. Although the United States and Mexico have an extradition treaty, the Mexican authorities initially refused to hand over Brenda. They were concerned that if she were returned to the U.S., she might face the death penalty. To break the deadlock, the U.S. government had to formally guarantee that even if Brenda were convicted, the harshest sentence she would face would be life imprisonment. Only after receiving this assurance did Mexico agree to extradite her back to Dallas for trial. In October 2018, the trial of Robert Love began. With Christopher's testimony and the murder weapon as evidence, the jury took just 2 hours to unanimously find him guilty. Love was sentenced to death. Christopher, having signed a plea deal, did not have to stand trial. She received a 35-year prison sentence with no possibility of parole for the first 15 years. By May 2019, it was Brenda's turn to face trial. In court, she remained cold and emotionless. She didn't look at Kendra's family, and she showed no sign of remorse. But with overwhelming evidence against her, the jury took only 20 minutes to reach a verdict. Guilty. Initially, she could have faced the death penalty, but due to the prior agreement with Mexico, she was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. At the trial, Kendra's sister broke down in tears. If you ever met her, the thing you'd probably remember most is her laugh. Kendra was always full of love and always willing to help others. When I heard she'd been murdered, I couldn't believe it. Nobody hated her. Nobody would ever want to hurt her. After Love was sentenced to death, surprisingly, some people began advocating for him. A petition was launched demanding his release, arguing that the gun found in the vehicle wasn't proven to be the murder weapon, and there were no fingerprints or DNA linking him to it. They claimed he was convicted not on the basis of evidence, but because of racial bias. However, the petition only gathered 803 signatures, and the prosecutor's office did not respond. Looking back on the case, Brenda had a difficult childhood but always seemed to strive forward. To outsiders, she was seen as a kind, religious young woman with a promising future. But when faced with the torment of losing her love, she chose the path of brutal revenge. When love turns into obsession, when heartbreak festers into hatred, even the most polite, gentle person can harbor the darkest thoughts. And in the end, an innocent woman completely unaware of this hidden resentment became the victim of that madness. It's tragic and heartbreaking. This story serves as a painful reminder that love, while it can be the most powerful motivator, can also become the most dangerous obsession. When someone cannot accept loss, they may lose their sense of reason, willing to commit the cruelest acts just to hold on or to strike back. That's why, when love ends, we must learn to let go. Because sometimes the best thing you can do isn't to hold on, but to give yourself and the other person a chance to move on.